Bucks is back on KFAN. We have 9 chances for you to win $1,000 every weekday. It's every hour from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. To enter the keywords and learn more, head to KFAN.com.
Couple 13-14 past, I'm Common East Tennessee. Earlier in the program I was talking about Deuce, my firstborn, loins, that whole thing. How he is, he works for Game Time Minnesota Network doing hockey play-by-play, did a lot of soccer games and some volleyball in the fall. And he's doing hockey now, and he's doing a really good job. I listen to each and every game. I got to admit, I'm not completely locked in start to finish, but he does a nice job, and we talk a little bit about it. Kind of go over almost like an air check kind of critiquing. And I mentioned to you, Tennessee, that he will DVR or record all the Wild games and listen to how LaPanta does it. He's a good role model for play-by-play. Anthony does a great job. And then, somebody sent a text. He goes, does Deuce take after his dad where he'll just pick out 2 players on one of the teams and just have them touch the puck every time so he doesn't have to memorize numbers? And I can probably say no, he does not. He literally will go, I'll watch him. He'll be looking at the computer. He'll be looking over and memorizing names and numbers. And he takes it serious, which is good. That's how he got a degree. He got a degree. He set himself free at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. What was he thinking going to Lincoln? I saw this story, Tennessee. CBSSports.com headline: Jason Kidd goes on expletive-laden rant after a question about Cooper Flagg. Says the Dallas Mavericks may have lost their last 4 games, but it's clear they drafted a superstar and number 1 overall pick. Cooper Flagg, the Duke product, scored 34 points, grabbed 12 boards in a 111-107 loss to the Rockets, and delivered a 49-point explosion on 20 of 29 shooting in the 123-121 loss to the Charlotte Hornets on Thursday. It marked the most points scored by a teenager in NBA history and Flagg's second 40-point game. LeBron James and Anthony Edwards are the only other teens to drop 40 points in multiple association games. Took Flagg some time to get rolling at the next level, and part of that was because he was called upon to be a primary ball handler. Following Dallas's loss to Houston, a reporter asked head coach Jason Kidd about the criticism he took for that decision, having Cooper Flagg being a primary ball handler. Here's what Kidd said. You ready for this, Tennessee? I don't give a bleep about the criticism. Criticism? That's your opinion. You guys write that BS. That's not. I've done this. I've played this game. I've played it at a very high level. I know what I'm bleeping doing. Leave the radio to the professionals. It's so good. But I don't give a bleep what you guys write because you guys have never played the game. And so I build players. So I know what the bleeping I'm doing. So take criticism. It only makes me better because if I wasn't doing it right, you guys wouldn't be poking holes in what I've done. You've never played the game. I've done it. I've played it at high level, which is true. Though I don't know if he knows if each and every one of those media guys hasn't played the game. For instance, Tennessee, what do I tell every Viking player that we interview at training camp or at Toys for Tots? I played the game at a high level. Fierce pass rushing, rocket Gibraltar run stopping defensive lineman, precise route running, sure and pass catching tight end. As a matter of fact, I'd like to interview a track and field coach sometime because I did that as well. I have a blue ribbon. Yeah. Adams School track and field days, 6th grade. I finished first in the sack race. You know what else I stumbled across? Remember I read those those school papers that I had to write in 4th grade about Santa Claus? I also found another ribbon in that bag It was a white third place, third grade, 60-yard dash. Now, that's not first or second, so I obviously wasn't the fastest kid, but I could run a little bit.
Yeah, got some wheels.
And I've been running for something for a long, long time. The skeletons in my closet. And they don't run very well anymore, and plus they make too much noise as they rattle those bones. But I just love that the coach went to that card. I've been doing this at a high level. And again, I'm not paying close enough to Dallas Mavericks basketball as I once did, but I do wonder if maybe he had him as a ball. I guess I'll trust Jason Kidd. He probably had him a ball handler because nobody else could handle the ball, right? But the Flagg kid is amazing. And I asked Rosen, would you trade Anthony Edwards for Cooper Flagg? And he said no. Of course, he said he wouldn't trade him for any player in the NBA right now. And I don't know if I would do that either, because Edwards is really, really good, as we know. I just hope he figures out a way, because we had the quote last week where he says, I just got to figure out a way to get myself to do it, to play defense start to finish every game. Because he basically stated, the Wolves have been on a really nice run. Now, was it 5 or 6 games they've won in a row? It's 5 for sure. And they've beaten some quality opponents during that time, too. They beat Rockets, Spurs, and Thunder. And defensively, especially against the Thunder, that was probably, and again, I have to take the word of the people I trust, might have been their best game overall, start to finish all year long, where they didn't wait till halfway through the first quarter or deep into the second quarter or the second half to start playing defense, or in some cases with the Wolves this season, and not just this season, historically the last few, sometimes they just don't play defense at all during the entire game, all 48 minutes. They've just said, we're just not interested in playing it. But Edwards said, and this is a paraphrase, when I'm playing defense, it seems like the other guys are all on board. He's a team leader. And so, but then what got me was he goes, I just got to figure out a way to do it. Well, I don't know. What do you mean figure out a way? I don't know.
It's not that complicated.
No, I don't think. Yeah. Now, Chris Hine wrote the piece in which those quotes I lifted from his piece on the game, and the quotes from, and he said he was surmising or offering up, I don't know, not necessarily an excuse, but a reason as to why it's possible Edwards doesn't play shutdown defense start to finish, and that he offers so much up offensively that it can take a toll. You get Tucker, right? And, look, basketball, especially if you're playing a lot of minutes and you are playing both ends of the floor, it is an exhausting game, but he wouldn't be the first player, I don't think, that played really hard every possession, offense and defense. And I would guess, Tenneby, you don't even have to do it every single possession, because there are probably times where when you get back, you can, as long as you're near your guy, the ball might not come over there. You might not need to make a stop, right? So you can catch your breath a bit. I just know all the all-time greats that play on both ends of the floor are able to do it for an entire game. And hell, Jordan would do it for 82 games out of a season. So, but if he can figure out how to play defense start to finish like that, I mean, is he the best player in the NBA? Probably not, but he's amongst them. We know that. We'll see how it goes as the rest of the season plays out. We'll break. We'll return. Controversial Vikings news other side of the break. Tenneby's got a keyword, though, for us now.
The Fan wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword bonus at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. That keyword is bonus. Enter now at KFAN.com. Never miss your chance to know what the latest sports news is in town. Chances to win tickets and knowing what is going on with all your favorite KFAN shows. Follow KFAN 1003 on all of our social channels like Instagram, TikTok, and X now. Stay connected and follow the sports leader, KFAN.
13-14 past, I'm Common. He's Tennessee. So, give me 1 second here, because I think you're going to like this. Yeah, keep playing it a little bit. Here was what I was referring to earlier about Kevin O'Connell. This is all on the heels of the firing of Kwesi on Friday. Mark Craig, who is the NFL writer for the Fish Wrap Factory on the West Side, he did a piece on Saturday. It appeared at 12 noon straight up. Analysis, Kevin O'Connell's plea for depth might have been a harbinger of the Vikings split.
Oh my gosh, can you above average at that?
Said the beat, I'd referred to this a little bit earlier, and I just found it now. It says, the beat-up Vikings were limping along at 4-8 after a shutout loss in which they were forced to start an undrafted rookie at quarterback opposite Sam Darnold in Seattle. We all remember that game. They were a week away from being eliminated from the playoff chase with 4 games remaining when I asked Kevin O'Connell for the number one key to playoff consistency, something that was about to stiff-arm the reigning NFL Coach of the Year for the second time in his 4 seasons as head coach. Craig goes on to write, his answer below seemed a little then and more now like a subtle harbinger of what came January 30th. The firing of general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. Here was the reply to the question. This was during a news conference on December 3rd. It's simple things sometimes. The depth. The players who are going to be stepping in, have they been in your system? Are they that true next man up? Or are they players who maybe are the next man up just because of the necessity to acquire a player or whatever it is? That's the end of the quote. And then Craig writes, this assessment of what a coach needs for playoff consistency went deeper than depth at quarterback or any single misstep Adofo-Mensah made. At the moment, O'Connell had on his active roster, only 4 of the team's 27 draft picks from 2021 to 2023. Rick Spielman's last draft, 1 of 11. So they had a Spielman guy, and Adofo-Mensah's first 2, 3 of 16. Only 2 were starters, 1 from Spielman, Christian Darrisaw, and 1 from Adofo-Mensah, Jordan Addison. At that same moment over in Green Bay, the Packers had a whopping 18 of 33 picks remaining from those drafts, 12 of them starters. Perhaps fittingly, on the same day Adofo-Mensah was fired, Packer GM Brian Gutekunst was among those in the Packers brain trust receiving contract extensions. In Detroit, the Lions had 13 of 23 remaining, 11 of them starters, 4 of them first-team All-Pros, and Jamison Williams. Williams, of course, is the receiver Adofo-Mensah handed to the Lions. As rookie GM, he traded the 12th pick, dropped 20 spots, selected Louis Cine in what was Adofo-Mensah's first big move, and the colossal mistake for which the unorthodox analytics-based GM will live in infamy. Goes on to say these numbers, when stacked against division opponents and O'Connell's plea for more depth, subtle publicly, understandably more forceful behind the scenes, are really what's needed to explain why the Vikings didn't want Kwesi near another draft board. That and Adofo-Mensah spending hundreds of millions of dollars on old free agents in last year's attempt to hide drafting. And then one last paragraph that says, the only puzzling part is why this firing wasn't done a month or 2 ago. Owner Mark Wilf said ownership made its decision during its annual postseason review. He said no one, O'Connell included, called for Kwesi's firing. And, because, I'm not only do I have 4 years of college eligibility remaining, but two years of high school. And while I played football at a high level, I've never been a general manager or a coach at a team. But would it have made much of a difference if, let's say, they had fired Kwesi a month ago in the planning for the draft? Because I think really what's at the crux of this whole thing is he's being given for sure his fair share of the blame, and maybe even more. As I've said before, I still don't know. And the people I trust that I talk to, I've asked point blank, in person and on text, how much input does the general manager have, a head coach, defensive coordinator? No one seems to know for sure. There are disagreements. We do know the general manager allegedly has the final say.
The buck stops there.
The buck stops there. But as we also talked about, before he signed his extension, before the season started, sometime in, was it March or April or whatever, shortly after the season ended, I think it was before the draft and before free agency, O'Connell re-signed a new deal, and what we had heard was he wanted more say in personnel decisions. So I guess,
which means he doesn't trust the GM's
exactly
decision making.
And I got to be honest. I mean, as much as I've tried to defend Kwesi by saying it can't be, much like the Donatel stuff. When Donatel got blamed for all the Vikings problems, if it wasn't for Ed Donatel, we win a big game. I know people weren't going that far, but they were basically saying it was all Donatel's fault for the Vikings. And I was like, well, he didn't have a lot of great players to work with either. And we saw what happened the following year when Kwesi didn't do any better. Matter of fact, the team, I think, finished 7-10 under him. And the defense wasn't very good. But I'd rather have O'Connell and the coaching staff picking the players than Kwesi again. Now, there are other general managers that are really good at it. Apparently, is it Roseman for Philadelphia? Mm-hmm. I think he knows what he's doing. The guy for Detroit, the Holmes guy, I mean, the numbers are right there. Gutekunst for Green Bay, the numbers are right there. They're drafting players that have become integral parts of the team. And in some cases, in Detroit, we had all pros there. So my point is, so let's say they would have hired a general manager. I don't know, did they hire a guy? Who would they have hired a general manager a month ago? Would it have been Brzezinski? Would it have been some guy that has prior general manager experience? But he's out of work. And why is he out of work? Because apparently he didn't do something right in his last stop, so he's been fired, right? Or do you give a guy that's never done it, or are you thumbing through a media guide and you look across the LA Rams and go, hey, maybe that guy? I don't think it's that big of a deal that they waited till now to get rid of Mensah. I really don't. And maybe somebody can email me.
I don't have a problem with that. I do think it's still a little odd that they feel like they don't have enough time to have a GM settled in time before the draft. I mean, the decision was made in late January. You still have 2.5 months where they could still put something together, which leads me to believe either A, this was always about a power struggle between Kwesi and KOC, and now KOC is going to be now getting all the input, or B, the name that keeps being thrown out is George Payton, who used to be, an assistant GM here, has 1 year left on his contract. So is this just we're just going to wait it out for a year, or maybe Payton forces his way out at some point and says, hey, I'm not going to resign here when we're done anyways. Might as well just let me go now. I don't know.
Well, I think he can leave because isn't it, if you get a promotion, they have to let you go?
He's the GM there.
Oh, he is GM, not assistant. Oh, okay.
He was the assistant here and then went to be the GM there.
Okay. So that would not.
But I don't know about his relationship with Sean Payton and whether Payton wants to have control. I don't know.
Well, I guess what I'm saying though is if you fired Kwesi, let's say you fired him right when the season ended, is it really wise to rush in a GM to help with all this when you go, I got Brzezinski to handle the contracts and to handle all that stuff. Let's let the head coach. He's the guy that wants to draft them. So go ahead. I just don't think having a GM in place right now, and again, maybe some other people that understand it a little bit better, can give me reasons why it would have been imperative to have a guy in, but I just don't think it's that big of a deal. If the head coach and the rest of the coaching staff and the personnel department people are now the ones that are going to be the ones that identify the guys you want to draft, then I don't know what good the general manager does. I don't know. Does that make sense what I'm saying? I think you want one, obviously, after that to help with that process. But now, I kind of think the Wolves are just going, all right, guy, it's all on you. Let's see you do it then. If you don't like the GM, here you go. It's your draft. Go ahead. And it's a big one. That's the other thing. You heard Mark Wilf say, it's really important we get this right. I think there's a lot of pressure on O'Connell right now.
There is now.
A ton of it. Because he's going to be in charge of this draft. And he's had 2 wonderful regular seasons. And he also hasn't won a playoff game yet either. We'll break, come back, one more segment to go here on the Common Man program on the Fan. Couple 13-14 pastime comedies tend to be. So, found this story thumbing through my news feed. You have a snowstorm heading your way, Tennessee? Here's why you should put a quarter on a frozen cup of water. You heard this?
No.
I think this sounds like genius, but it might not be. Says, okay, let's say this will even happen in the summertime if there's thunderstorms, right? What if your power goes out? It's out for an hour. It's out for a couple hours, a couple, 3. How long does the food in your refrigerator and in your freezer before you want to throw it out? That's what this guy says. Here's a simple yet clever trick you can use to check if the items in your freezer remain frozen during a power outage caused by a storm. You place a coin on top of a frozen cup of water. Okay? First, fill up a cup or any other freezer-safe container with water. Place it in the freezer overnight. Once this has frozen, place a quarter on the top. Next, place your cup back in the freezer, making sure the door is shut for easy access later. The premise is that if you find the quarter remains at the top, it indicates the ice hasn't melted and your food contents are safe to eat.
Brilliant!
If the quarter's in the middle of the cup, it indicates that it's begun to thaw when the power was cut and refroze. You should then be checking each item to be sure they haven't defrosted. And if the quarter is at the bottom of the cup, the freezer is fully defrosted, in which case you should throw out your food contents and avoid food poisoning. Huh? I've done that at home now.
You have?
Yeah, yes. I got a cup, quarter sitting on top. Well, you can't
Sit in your freezer?
just sit in your freezer. You can't be too prepared for disaster. So that's what I've done. One other story that I teased earlier, and then we didn't get to, and you were the one that provided me this. Evan Sidery. I don't know who he is. I don't know where you found this guy, but he sent out a tweet. 405,000 people have seen it. We're closing in on 500,000. Says the Timberwolves are gauging the trade value of Julius Randle and Naz Reid for a potential Giannis Antetokounmpo, thank you, blockbuster.
Oh my gosh, can you work about that?
Minnesota will likely need to surrender a package of Randle, Reid, and Jaden McDaniels to satisfy the Bucks' significant draft pick threshold for Giannis. Because, and look, okay, let's first of all say, I don't know if Evan Sidery, I don't know who he is, where he's been, where he's going, where he's at. You and I discuss this anytime we see tweets. I've been accused of making stuff up to prop up sagging ratings. Guilty. How many people do that, do we think? Where it's like, because there's no way you remember what the media always has going for them is, well, I have a source that requested anonymity, and I have no obligation to you with freedom of the press to tell you who my source is. But trust me, I have a source. So, Tennessee, I could just say, my source with the Wild says they're going to have trouble re-signing Quinnesota. Just, did you hear what Common said? And then all of a sudden people go, I got to take a look at that. What did he say? How does he know? When I don't know anybody with the Wild.
I would like to break something Wild related, though.
Oh, you would? Okay.
My sources tell me the Wild will make another trade before the trade deadline.
Wait, hold on.
Oh my gosh, can you above average at that?
So, it probably is going to happen. Most people say so. And then if it doesn't, you just say, well, my source wasn't right. So this Evan Sidery guy might not have any sources whatsoever. Just like, I'll throw out this. I need a few more extra clicks I'll throw out because it's trade deadlines coming up and people are talking about the possibility because the Wolves have been rumored. Because I saw another story before you sent me that earlier today that was gauging.
There's been lots of hot rumors, so yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's been gauging the different possibilities. And the one I saw just before you sent this to me thought the chances of the Wild making that deal were slim to none. Or Wolves were slim to none. That was because, we don't have a lot of draft picks to offer up.
So here's how I think it has to work, and this complicates things. Milwaukee, if you're going to give up a guy like Giannis, you're in full rebuild mode, correct?
Yeah.
So they need to acquire a bunch of draft picks.
Correct.
Wolves do not have a bunch of draft picks. So for this to work, there's going to have to be a third team involved. Or we're sending a player somewhere else. They're sending draft picks to Milwaukee. So there's going to have to be three teams, which obviously makes it very, very complicated.
Here's where Antetokounmpo is 31. He's had some injury issues, but the people I trust tell me he's still a top 10 player in the NBA when he's healthy and playing well, right? So would you like to add a top 10 player with another top? Because some people think Ant's top 5.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have a top 10 and a top. That would be wonderful. But if it's at the expense of Randall, Reed, and McDaniels, McDaniels, Reed, and Randall alone. If you took each one of those guys and say, is Randall better than Antetokounmpo? You'd say no. Is Jaden McDaniels better? No. Is Reed? No. But if you eliminate those three guys on the team, can Edwards and Antetokounmpo and the rest of your bench, who we already don't think is that deep to begin with, can they replace the productivity of Randall, Reed? And McDaniels is considered by many to be as good a two-way player in the league as there is, right? Defensively, he's a shutdown a player, and offensively, he's gotten much better. He's become a better offensive player. So, I don't run the club, and I'm sure people are happy that I don't. But if all of a sudden, I got a call from a GM that said, "Hey, we want to trade this Sean Bradley for that Stoico guy," right? Am I going to take? Would you say, Teneby, you're the general manager? You get a call. We'll give you. You're the Wolves general manager. We'll give you Antetokounmpo, but we want Randall, Reed, and McDaniels in return.
I don't know how we're going to fill out the roster.
Well, that's it.
We don't have any draft picks moving forward.
Right.
You're not going to have the salary cap space moving forward. My guess is if they do this deal where Giannis is here, and they've decided to go with the big two, it's an admission that we can't beat OKC in a 7-game series with the way our roster is currently constructed because they will always have more depth than us.
Right.
We're not going to be able to match their depth. Our depth is thin compared to theirs. So we need to take the opposite approach. Because we can't match their depth, we need to outstar them. And we're going to grab 2 stars. That's got to be the only line of thinking. Because the team's already thin depth-wise to begin with. And I think they know they can't hang with OKC over a long 7-game series.
Well, I think you've hit on the key point. Is they've beaten? Have we played 3 against OKC this year, and we've won the last 2? I think we're up on them 2-1. I think. And the last game, that was pretty much start to finish. The Wolves' domination, right? So my basketball/golfing buddy, basketball aficionado, and said something to the effect of, beat the Thunder again. We could end up winning 10 games in a row headed into the All-Star break. And You remember when Edwards earlier in the year, I brought this up on a number of occasions now, you couldn't forget with how many times I brought it up, where at the beginning of the season when the Wolves got off to a tough start, he said something to the effect of, just seems like we don't really want to play these games, meaning these regular season games. We just want to get right to the playoffs, right? So my comeback to my pal was, well, what if OKC's at the point they're thinking the same thing? Well, these regular season games don't mean that much to us. We're just waiting for the regular season. I think OKC gets everybody's best effort, no matter who it is, right? Because they are the defending champs and the best record in basketball. And my other point was exactly what you said. 7-game series. That's the key. Because when we played them in a 7-game series last year, we were exposed. Or maybe Oklahoma City was just that good, and I think it maybe had more to do with the latter than the former. They were just so good, and they won, 4 games to 1? So it's great to flex your muscles in the regular season and to beat those teams to show that you can beat them. But when the stakes are much higher, when we get to postseason play, I don't, when the stakes get higher, I don't know if the Wolves can. And so to your point, if they
we'd have a twosome that would be better than what their twosome would be if we did the trade.
That is correct.
Better than anyone's twosome.
Yes. Yeah, I think it would be, wouldn't it?
I just don't know who else is going to. Obviously, Gobert would still be there under these trade.
Right.
And still have Béranger as he might get thrown in that too.
Yeah. And then again, I don't know
how you're going to go get depth pieces.
Yeah. And then the other thing I don't know, and maybe you do, because don't you have to match salaries and this and that? So I don't even know how all of that works. I don't know what
that's complicated.
Make, and that's it. And that's why you say a third team might have to probably.
But I do like having an ownership and a GM that's willing to take big swings.
Sure. We said that. I said that when they traded for Gobert. I didn't really like the Cat trade, but you got to do what you got to do. They knew that there was, and I think, is it New York trying to part ways with Bodega Cat too, or they're willing to listen? So maybe that experiment
get the band back together?
Yeah, well, I don't know if that would work either. So I don't know what works and what doesn't, especially when it comes to matching up salaries and the like. I saw another CBS. This isn't really a list story, though it kind of is. It comes under the category of agents' take. The 2025 NFL Contract Awards. In other words, which contracts were really, really good, the best contracts in the NFL, and then the worst contracts.
Why do I feel like we're going to see Sam Darnold on this list?
He's at number 1, most valuable acquisition. It says the Seahawks pivoted to Sam Darnold after contract extensions with Geno Smith stalled prior to his trade to Vegas. Darnold signed a team-friendly 3-year, $100.5 million contract in free agency that averages $33.5 million per year, can reach $115.5 million through incentives. If Smith had been willing to accept the Darnold-type deal, he would still be the Seattle quarterback. The contract was structured to give the Seahawks a small window to get out after the season if Darnold didn't play well. Of the $27.5 million he's scheduled to make in 2026, $17.5 million is guaranteed for injury and becomes fully guaranteed after Super Bowl LX on February 13. If Seattle parts ways with him in 2026, it would carry $25.6 million in dead money, a salary cap charge for a player no longer on the roster, while Darnold will collect $37.5 million for 1 year. A quick exit isn't a consideration for the Seahawks after they advanced to the first big game in 11 years. Darnold showed his 2024 Pro Bowl season wasn't just a product of Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell's offensive brilliance. He earned another Pro Bowl nod, and Seattle secured the top seed in the NFC with a 14.3 record. And particularly what's happened in his last couple of games, he's reshaping his reputation for choking in big games. The runner-up to me would be Green Bay and Micah Parsons. Hard to argue.
Until he got hurt,
Until he got hurt. I mean, he was...
Immediate impact.
Immediate impact. Matter of fact, wasn't it after he got hurt is when they went on their losing streak? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how much of a defensive player,
He takes so much attention from the other team.
The least valuable acquisition would have been Geno Smith.
Yeah, that didn't go well for them.
Smith received a 2-year, $75 million contract extension that averages $37.5 per year, $50 million in guarantees, $42 fully guaranteed, blah, blah, blah. Didn't work well with the Raiders. Matter of fact, they got Pete Carroll fired. Often,
the fact that Seattle was able to find someone who would take Geno Smith away in a trade,
yes,
that was good.
Yep.
And then to back that up with Sam Darnold in that performance, I mean, that's just unbelievable GMing.
Offensive signing of the year, Mac Jones.
Really?
Says the 49ers' decision to give Mac Jones a 2-year, $8.41 million contract worth a maximum of $12.9 million through incentives to Brock Purdy was viewed as little more than a blip on the NFL radar when he signed last March. He proved far more valuable than expected, keeping San Fran afloat during the 8 games Purdy missed with a turf toe injury. The 49ers won 5 of the 8 games Jones started. He completed 69.6% of his passes for 2,151 yards, 13 tutties, 6 picks, posting a 97.4 passer rating over that stretch.
San Fran might have the real quarterback whisperer.
Yeah, I mean, those are really nice numbers, especially for a guy that, for the amount of money they paid him, and like they say, they kept him afloat. Now, they didn't make postseason play. I get all of that.
Well, they made the playoffs.
But right.
But they lost.
They did, but they lost in the playoffs. So,
but they were so beat up physically.
Correct. And that's why there are... Mac Jones, did it say signed a 2-year deal? So does that mean he's stuck there, or could the San Francisco trade him?
There's been rumors about him.
Yeah.
He's been showing up on the Vikings radar of someone that could be traded here to compete with JJ.
Defensive signing of the year, Micah Parsons. Do you know who's listed on the biggest steal category? Nashawn Wright.
Nashawn Wright?
Nashawn, is it Nashawn? I thought it was Nashawn. I've heard of his name before. Where do the Bears get players like that?
I always love that one.
The Bears had no idea Wright would play such a prominent role on their defense when they quickly signed him to a 1-year deal at his $1.1 million league minimum after the Vikings released him in April. He spent the 2024 season on Minnesota's practice squad after the Vikings acquired him that preseason from the Cowboys for cornerback Andy Booth. Wright seized an opportunity created by multiple injuries at cornerback and put together a breakout season. He earned NFC Defensive Player of the Month honors in November and led the NFL with 8 takeaways, 5 interceptions, and 3 fumble recoveries. Late in the season, Wright said he would like to remain in Chicago. The Bears already have significant financial commitments at cornerback, though. Jalen Johnson is in the second year of a 4-year, $76 million deal. Kyler Jordan signed a 3-year, $40 million extension that averages over $13 million a year. But, and look, he was only signed as a backup in Chicago too. So I'm not going to, completely rip the Vikings, but they had a guy right there, and I don't know. He got his playing time there due to injuries. But nonetheless, he was a guy we had on our roster. So, you talk about...
At a position of need.
At a position of need. So you talk about the head coach talking about depth. We read that piece from Mark Craig where he talked about a quote back in December that O'Connell had about key to having a Super Bowl type team is depth. Well, there was a depth piece right there that they let get away. Now, was that him or was it Kwesi's fault? I don't know. That's what I guess we'll never know. But so 2 players on this very short list of best agent contracts, from agents take the best contracts of the year, 2 of them with the Vikings, the Darnold and now the Wright character. But, which
is even funnier, it shows up on that list because you've had so many people email you, text you, talk back you. Well, we wouldn't have had the money to go sign those other guys if we would brought Sam Darnold along.
Yeah.
Well, basically the best contract in the NFL.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so, and as we talked about those people that they're right, we probably wouldn't have had the money for those guys, but it's well documented that the center gave us nothing, and that was due to concussions, but he gave us nothing. The 2 defensive guys, did I see they combined for, was it 5 sacks, 5.5? Your 2 interior guys who the reason you got them was not so much for run stopping, because we got rid of our run stopping middle guy, remember? And
Harrison Phillips. And
we decided we wanted a better pass rush from the interior. And I think 5.5 sacks might be, it might even be less than that from our interior guys, but that was the most.
Well, the best one was from Jalen Redmond, outperformed all of them.
Right, exactly. And so that money, you could say, really wasn't well spent. And then the other guy was at Fry's, and he was good. I mean, he wasn't great, but he wasn't bad, and he played.
He also signed to a big contract, even though he was fine, I don't think he met the standard of his contract.
Yes, you're right. But at least he stayed healthy, too, for the most part, and played. I don't think he missed much at all. So, there we go. Denby, thanks for having me.
Hey, great job.
Yeah, you as well. I really liked... are you the Jewel producer? No, what are you?
Well, I'm the talk show host whisperer.
Yes,
I know
the talk show host whisperer is what you are. Thanks for whispering in my ear today. I'm just glad they weren't sweet nothing.
Say the Barrero and Gertzie are next.
Barrero and Gertzie, they're next. Right here on the common, what we've actually called FM 100.3, The Fan.
Good night. Good morning. Good afternoon. And good night, Minnesota. And good night, folks. And good night, Mrs. Calabash. Wherever you are.
Listen back to any of Common Man's programs by podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.